The sun burned brightly over Outpost Veganine, casting long shadows across the metallic structures that made up the human colony. Ethan moved carefully along the main plaza, his boots clanging softly against the alloyed floor. He was a security officer, trained to read danger before it arrived, and today was no exception. The colony had been tense ever since the Veyron delegation had arrived for peace talks. Ethan had seen many alien species in his career, but the Veyron were something else entirely. Towering lithe, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing, they carried an air of authority and grace. Their skin had a soft iridescence that shimmered under the sun, their long limbs moving with an elegance humans could only admire. Today, the plaza was crowded, both humans and Veyron mingling nervously as a demonstration of cooperation. Ethan's gaze swept the crowd. Everything looked normal, or so it seemed. He noticed the small figure of a young Veyron girl near the edge of the plaza. She was perhaps 10 or 11 by human standards. Her silver blue skin, catching the sunlight, hair braided tightly along her scalp, decorated with tiny ornaments that glimmered with faint light. Her large eyes scanned the crowd with curiosity, but they held a hint of fear too. Ethan frowned. Children were not meant to wander alone, especially in a place this tense. He began moving toward her, planning to guide her back to her mother's delegation. As he approached, the faint hum of energy weapons caught his attention. It was subtle, almost imperceptible unless you knew what to listen for. His heart skipped. Then he saw a glint of reflected sunlight from across the plaza. Something moving unnaturally, aimed directly at the girl. "Sniper!" Ethan shouted, his voice low but urgent. Instinct took over. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward her. The plaza erupted into chaos as people realized what was happening. The Veyron delegation froze in shock, human citizens screamed, and soldiers scrambled for cover. Ethan reached the girl just as a plasma round tore through the air. He threw himself forward, pulling her behind him. The energy bolt struck his armor with a loud hiss, burning and vibrating through his body. Pain shot up his shoulder, but he held firm, keeping the girl safe. "Stay down," he shouted, pressing her to the ground. The world seemed to move in slow motion. Another round streaked toward them, and Ethan rolled to shield her, taking the full brunt on his chest plate. Sparks flew as his armor absorbed most of the impact, but the vibration left him staggering. The girl clung to him, tiny hands gripping his uniform as fear and relief mingled in her large eyes. From the crowd, a murmur spread. Humans risking themselves for aliens were rare, but a human protecting a Veyron child, unheard of. The Veyron warriors surrounding the plaza moved with speed and precision, weapons drawn. They were trained to kill threats instantly, but they hesitated, unsure if Ethan was the aggressor or protector. Ethan held up a hand. "I'm protecting her. I'm with you." He shouted in broken Veyronon, which was enough to convey his intent. The girl looked up at him, voice trembling. "Protector," she whispered. Ethan smiled despite the pain. "That's right. I've got you." Minutes felt like hours. The sniper fired again, but the Veyron warriors, moving like shadows, pinpointed the attacker and neutralized the threat. The moment the sniper was captured, the plaza erupted into shouts, some in relief, some in anger, some in admiration. Ethan helped the girl to her feet, keeping himself between her and any remaining threats. High Matron Saria, the girl's mother and one of the most respected leaders among the Veyron, approached, her tall, elegant figure moving with authority. Her eyes narrowed as she examined Ethan, then softened when she saw he had protected her child. "You." "Human," she said slowly, her voice a melodic blend of authority and emotion. "You saved my daughter." Ethan straightened, dusting off his uniform. "I didn't do it for thanks. I saw she was in danger." Saria's eyes studied him carefully, noting the small scratches on his armor, the faint burns from the plasma shots. "Few humans would act like this," she said. "Among my people, this is considered the highest form of honor. To risk your life for another without thought, you are remarkable." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Praise from anyone, let alone an alien leader, made him uneasy. "I just did what anyone should do," he said, trying to brush it off. The young girl, leery, tugged on Ethan's arm. "Protect her," she said again, this time more insistently. "Stay with me." Ethan glanced down at her. She looked at him with complete trust, unafraid now that he was there. Somehow he felt the weight of her expectation, a responsibility that went beyond simple duty. He nodded. "I'll stay, Leary." The crowd began to disperse, whispers filling the air. Among humans, many were impressed, others suspicious. Among the Varan, admiration was clear. They had watched carefully as Ethan moved, calculating risks, protecting the child without hesitation. The act itself spoke louder than any words could. High Matron Saria motioned for her guards to escort them to a private chamber. "You will come with me," she said. "You must explain yourself." Ethan followed, keeping Leary close. Inside, the chamber was grand, filled with soft lighting that reflected off polished metal walls. Saria gestured for him to stand before her, her expression unreadable. "You have performed a deed that humans rarely attempt," she said. "In my culture, this creates a life debt. You have placed yourself at risk to save one of my children. This is binding." Ethan frowned. "Binding? You saved her life," she explained. "By Varan custom, I owe you a debt. You are entitled to anything you wish, anything you desire." Ethan's eyes widened. I don't want anything. I just did what was right." Saray's expression softened. "Refusal is rare. Yet I sense sincerity. This act alone elevates you in the eyes of my people." Leary tugged again at his arm. "Protect her." "Come sit," she said, pointing to a low bench. Ethan knelt beside her. She leaned her head against his shoulder, her trust unwavering. Saria watched silently, then spoke again. "You have more courage than most, and more heart. These qualities are unusual in humans." Ethan swallowed. He wasn't sure what to say. "I didn't do it for praise. I just couldn't let her be hurt." The Varan leader nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. "Then hear this. Human, you are now a part of something greater than yourself. You have shown that humans are capable of honor that rivals even the bravest among my people. Let this be known." Outside the chamber, guards and aides whispered among themselves. Stories of Ethan's bravery spread quickly. Some humans envied his sudden recognition, while others respected it. The Varan, especially the younger warriors, looked at him with awe. Leary, still clinging to him, whispered softly, "Protect her." "Always." Ethan smiled. "Always," he replied, though he felt the weight of her words. Protecting her had been instinctive, but now it carried deeper meaning. He was responsible for her safety, perhaps more than that. As the sun set over the outpost, casting long golden beams across the plaza, Ethan realized that nothing would ever be the same. A simple act of protection had changed his life entirely. He had earned not only the trust of an alien child and her mother, but the admiration of an entire species. In Leary's eyes, bright with gratitude and something more profound, reminded him that this was only the beginning. A bond had formed, one that would carry both of them into challenges neither had yet imagined. Ethan took a deep breath. Glancing at the horizon, the world felt larger, filled with possibilities and dangers. But for the first time in a long while, he felt ready. Ready to face whatever came next, not just as a human officer, but as someone who had crossed the line into something greater, protector, friend, and perhaps a bridge between two worlds as night fell over Outpost Vegignan. Ethan and Leary sat together under the soft glow of the plaza lights, the sounds of the colony buzzing around them. The sniper had been captured, the immediate danger was over, but the ripple effects of that day had only just begun. Humans and Varan alike would remember the human who risked everything for a young alien girl. And for Ethan, there was a quiet sense of purpose that he had never felt before. He would protect her. He would honor the life debt he hadn't asked for. And somehow, he knew that Leary, in her innocence and bravery, had already offered him more than he could have imagined, more than reward. She had offered him trust, loyalty, and a connection that crossed the boundaries of species, culture, and expectation. And for Ethan, that was more than enough. The following morning, The sun rose over Outpost Veganine, bathing the colony in soft golden light. The events of the previous day had left everyone unsettled. Humans whispered in their quarters, discussing Ethan's daring act, while Varan warriors moved through the streets with renewed interest in the human protector. Among them, a quiet energy of respect and curiosity surrounded him. Ethan walked through the plaza, Leary's small hand in his. She refused to leave his side, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trust. "Protector," she said again, tugging gently at his arm. "Stay with me." Ethan smiled down at her. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere," he said softly. Behind them, High Matron Saria approached, flanked by two tall guards. Her expression was serious, but there was a softness in her eyes when she looked at Ethan. "We must speak," she said, her voice carrying authority that made nearby humans instinctively step back. Ethan nodded. Following her into a private chamber in the heart of the delegation building, the room was spacious, decorated with glowing panels and intricate carvings that reflected Varan artistry. Leary ran ahead, settling onto a low bench with her small legs dangling, while Ethan took a position nearby. Ready to respond to whatever the matron required, Saria motioned for him to stand before her. "You have done something extraordinary," she began. "Few humans would risk themselves for another being, let alone one of my children. Your actions have earned you honor, and with honor comes responsibility." Ethan listened carefully. "I didn't expect anything," he said quietly. I couldn't let her get hurt." Saria studied him closely. "Your humility is rare among your kind. Yet in our eyes, it makes you even more remarkable. There is a custom among the Veyron that when a life is saved in such a way, the Savior is entitled to a reward anything they desire. You may claim this reward now or refuse it entirely." Ethan felt a weight in the room, a kind of quiet expectation that made him uneasy. I don't want anything," he said honestly. "I only did what I felt was right." The matron raised an eyebrow, impressed. "Refusal is rare. Your actions are therefore greater than the deed itself. Still, you must understand the implications. You have earned a life debt from my family. This cannot be ignored. And yet, if you truly desire nothing, you are not bound to claim material rewards. But know this: you are now connected to us in ways you may not yet understand." Leary climbed onto Ethan's knee, resting her head against his chest. Her small hand pressed gently into his uniform. "Protector," she said softly, "stay close. Don't leave." Ethan looked down at her. "I won't," he promised. Sarah's eyes softened. "Then let this be the first step in a journey that will bind our peoples more closely than ever before. You have shown the humans can be more than observers, more than negotiators. They can be protectors, allies, and friends. I would ask you to consider staying here for a while, to learn more about us, and for us to learn about you." Ethan nodded slowly. He had come here as a security officer, expecting routine duties and perhaps some tense diplomacy. But the situation had changed. He was no longer merely an observer. He was involved in something far greater. I will stay as long as you need me," he said carefully. Saria inclined her head. "Good. Then you will begin immediately. Leary will remain under your guidance, and you will be responsible for her safety at all times. This is not a task given lightly." Ethan glanced at Leary, whose bright eyes reflected curiosity and excitement. "I'll do my best," he said. Over the next several days, Ethan's presence in the delegation building became a quiet sensation. Humans watched from a distance, fascinated by how a human could interact so naturally with the Varan. The young girl Leary seemed to trust him completely, following him wherever he went. Ethan began to learn more about the Veyron way of life, their codes of honor, their rituals of respect, and the subtle ways they communicated without words. He discovered that their culture valued strength, courage, and loyalty above all else. Yet beneath their stern exterior, he found kindness and intelligence. Even their warriors, who could have seen him as an intruder, treated him with cautious respect, aware that he had risked his life for one of their own. One afternoon, as Ethan was assisting Leary in a training exercise, a young Varan warrior approached. His name was Talon, and he had been observing Ethan since the day of the attack. "Human," Talon said, his voice firm but not hostile. "You protected the matron's daughter. That was brave, but bravery is only part of what we value. You must show skill, wisdom, and loyalty to be truly respected among us. Are you willing to prove yourself further?" Ethan met Talon's gaze steadily. "I've already risked myself to protect her. I'll do whatever I can to keep her safe." Talon studied him carefully, then nodded. "Very well. Follow me." The two of them moved to a training ground where Vaeran warriors practiced combat drills. The exercises were unlike anything Ethan had encountered, blending speed, precision, and intuition. The warriors moved almost as if in a dance, their bodies flowing with controlled power. Ethan observed carefully, learning patterns and predicting movements. When Talon asked him to participate, Ethan applied his human training, combining quick thinking with raw determination. Though he was slower than the Vaeran, his strategies and ability to adapt impressed Talon and several other warriors who had gathered to watch. "Different," Talon said finally, breathing heavily from the exertion. "You think in ways we do not? That is, useful. Perhaps in time you will earn a place among us, not as a warrior, but as something else." "A bridge." Ethan nodded, not fully understanding, but sensing the meaning. Leary cheered quietly from the sidelines, her small voice calling, "Protector. Protector." Days turned into a week, and Ethan began to notice subtle shifts in the dynamics of the delegation. Human diplomats spoke with him cautiously, aware that the Vaeran were observing every interaction. The young girl's presence with him seemed to influence Vahan behavior. Warriors softened their stances. Leaders listened more attentively. One evening, as the twin suns of Veganine set, casting long crimson shadows across the city, Saria invited Ethan to a private council. Leary was already there, perched on a low bench with her hands folded neatly. "You have proven yourself in action and in thought," Saria said. "But there is more to this life debt than protection. There is a bond forming between you, the child, and our family. You must understand this fully, for your choices will affect not only her, but the relationship between our peoples." Ethan listened intently. "I understand," he said. "I care about her. I want to keep her safe. And I want to do what's right, no matter what." Saria inclined her head, a small smile breaking her otherwise stern expression. "Good. You must know, then, that a life debt among the Vaeran is not simply repaid by action alone. It is honored through trust, loyalty, and the willingness to accept responsibility that is greater than oneself. You have already begun this journey, but there will be tests of courage, of wisdom, and of heart." Leary reached out to touch his arm. "Protector, do not leave," she said softly. Ethan's chest warmed at her words. "I won't," he promised again. Over the next several days, Ethan found himself immersed in Vaeran culture. He learned to navigate the delicate social protocols of their leaders, the unspoken rules of warrior conduct, and the nuances of interspecies communication. Each day, Leary accompanied him, and her presence became a source of motivation and inspiration. One afternoon, a message arrived from the Human Council. The sniper incident was being investigated, and tensions between humans and Vaeran were higher than ever. Ethan realized that his actions had consequences far beyond the immediate act of protection. His bravery had created a ripple effect that was influencing diplomacy, alliances, and even the perception of humanity itself among the Vaeran. Saria approached him later that day. "You are not just a protector, Ethan. You are becoming a symbol of courage, of honor, of what humans can be. That is why I make this offer now." Ethan looked up, curious. "An offer?" "Yes," Saria said. "A human who has earned our trust and admiration may choose to remain with us. You may continue your duties as a protector of the child, and in doing so, you may learn and contribute to our society. The choice is yours." Ethan considered her words. He had trained as a soldier, as a security officer, but he had never imagined belonging to a world like this. Yet the bond he had formed with Leary and the respect he had earned from the Vaeran was something extraordinary. "I accept," he said finally. "I will stay and help. I will do my best." Saria's expression softened further. Good. Then you will begin fully as a member of our delegation. And as the chosen guardian of Lyri, your actions will be observed, your guidance trusted, and your decisions respected. Lyri's eyes sparkled with joy. Protector, she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. Ethan held her gently, feeling the weight of responsibility and the warmth of trust in equal measure. As night fell over Veganine, Ethan sat quietly in his quarters, reflecting on the journey so far. He had arrived as a human officer, expecting routine duties. But now he was something more: a protector, a symbol, a bridge between worlds. Lyri's trust, Saria's respect, the admiration of the Veyron, all reminded him that heroism was not measured by titles or weapons, but by actions and heart. The day began quietly at Outpost Veganine, but Ethan sensed a tension in the air. The sniper's attack from weeks ago had been neutralized, yet whispers among humans and Veyron alike hinted at lingering threats. Even after proving his courage and earning the Veyroni's trust, Ethan knew danger rarely vanished completely. He walked through the plaza with Lyri at his side, her small hand gripping his. She had grown more confident over the past days, moving freely among the Veyron without fear, yet her eyes constantly searched for him. Protector, she said softly, are we safe today? Ethan looked down and smiled. We are for now, but we must always be ready. As they approached the delegation building, an urgent message arrived from High Matron Saria. Ethan and Lyri were summoned immediately. They entered the private chamber to find Saria standing beside a holoscreen. Her expression grave. The sniper's identity has been confirmed, she began. It was not a lone attack. This individual belongs to a human extremist group aiming to destabilize relations between our peoples. They believe humans and Varn should never trust one another. Ethan's jaw tightened. So the danger isn't over. Saria shook her head. Not by far. We need to act decisively, but without provoking a larger conflict. The extremists must be captured and dealt with according to both human and Veyron law. Ethan nodded. I can help. I know how they think, and I can track them. Saria studied him, then spoke with the authority of a ruler who understood both strategy and diplomacy. You will lead the operation. Your role is not just to capture, but to prevent escalation. Your actions will reflect the honor and courage you have shown thus far. Ethan glanced at Lyri. She nodded, her trust unwavering. I'll do my best, he said quietly. Over the next hours, Ethan coordinated with both human security forces and Veyron warriors. The extremists were careful, using hidden locations and encrypted communications. Ethan's knowledge of human tactics allowed him to anticipate their movements. Finally, a breakthrough came. A small team of extremists had been located in an abandoned sector of the colony, preparing another attack. Ethan led the team, moving silently through the corridors. Veyron warriors flanked him, their elegant, precise movements providing both cover and protection. As they approached the target location, Ethan signaled for a halt. He observed the area carefully, noting escape routes, potential hazards, and weak points in the extremists' defenses. We move together, he whispered. No one acts alone. The Veyron nodded, their eyes sharp and focused. Ethan felt a surge of respect for these warriors who had once seemed so alien to him. Now his trusted allies, with a signal, they advanced. The extremists were caught by surprise. Ethan and the Veyron moved swiftly, disabling the attackers' weapons and securing the area. Within minutes, the threat was neutralized without bloodshed. The extremists were detained and transferred to secure holding for questioning and justice. Back at the delegation building, Ethan debriefed Saria. It's over, he said. No one was harmed, and the extremists are contained. Saria nodded, her face showing relief mixed with admiration. Your judgment and skill have prevented what could have been a major conflict. Humans rarely show such foresight combined with courage. You have truly earned your place among us. Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction, but his attention was drawn to Lyri. She ran to him, eyes shining with admiration and gratitude. Protector, you did it, she exclaimed, throwing her arms around his leg. Ethan bent down and hugged her gently. We did it together, he said. Later that evening, Saria invited Ethan to a formal gathering of the delegation. The Veyron leaders and human representatives assembled in the main hall, their faces filled with curiosity and anticipation. Ethan stood beside Leary, who held his hand tightly. Saria raised her voice so all could hear. Let it be known that this human, Ethan, has risked his life, protected the young, and ensured peace between our peoples. He has demonstrated honor, courage, and loyalty beyond expectation. And for that, he shall be offered a choice of place among us, not as a visitor, but as one of our own, recognized and respected. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Humans exchanged surprised looks, while Veyron warriors bowed slightly in acknowledgement. Ethan felt the weight of the moment. This was more than recognition. It was an invitation to belong to a world that had once felt completely foreign. Saria stepped closer, her expression gentle. You may return to your world as a hero, or you may remain here, fully accepted as a guardian and friend of my people. The choice is yours. Ethan glanced at Leary. Her trust and joy were evident, and he realized how deeply he had come to care for her and her people. I choose to stay, he said finally. A soft cheer rose from the Veyron delegation. Leary clapped her hands and jumped into his arms. Protector, she shouted. You are staying. Saria smiled warmly. Then it is settled. You will continue as the chosen guardian of Leary and serve as a bridge between our worlds. Your courage has not only protected one life, but it has strengthened the bond between humans and Veyron. In the following days, Ethan fully embraced his new role. He guided Leary through daily routines, taught her strategies for safety, and helped her understand both human and Veyron ways. At the same time, he learned more about the Veyron culture, their history, values, and the ways they honored loyalty and bravery. Ethan's presence also began to influence the younger Vahan warriors. They watched him carefully, learning how a human could combine intellect, strategy, and courage in ways that complemented their own skills. In many ways, he became a teacher as much as a protector, showing that strength came in many forms. One afternoon, while walking through the gardens surrounding the delegation complex, Leary spoke quietly. Protector, will humans and Veyron always be friends now? Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. I hope so. But it depends on all of us, humans, Veyron, and even kids like you. We have to trust each other, just like we trust one another. Leary smiled, her eyes shining. Then I will help, she said confidently. Ethan ruffled her hair gently. I know you will. As the weeks passed, peace settled more firmly over Outpost Veganine. Diplomats and leaders on both sides recognized Ethan's role in preventing further conflict. He continued to train and guide Leary, while also serving as an example to both humans and Veyron of what courage and honor could achieve. Then, one evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Saria called Ethan to her private quarters. Leary followed eagerly. You have done more than protect a child, Saria said softly. You have shown that humans and Vaharan can work together, that courage and honor are universal, and that loyalty transcends species. For this, we honor you not just as a guardian, but as family. Ethan blinked, taken aback. Family? He asked. Saria nodded. Yes, from this day forward, you are part of our people. Your bond with Leary and with me represents what we hope to achieve between our world's trust, respect, and loyalty. Your life debt is fulfilled, and yet it continues in the form of responsibility and honor. This is the greatest reward a Veyron can give. Leary ran forward, throwing her arms around him. Protector, family, she said joyfully. Ethan hugged her back, feeling a deep sense of belonging he had never experienced before. In that moment, he understood that his actions, simple, instinctive, and brave, had led to something far greater than recognition or reward. He had built a bridge between worlds, formed bonds that would last a lifetime, found a purpose that transcended duty. The celebration continued that night in the grand hall of the delegation. Humans and Veyron mingled, sharing stories and laughter. Ethan watched as Leary played among the young Veyron, her laughter filling the hall. He realized that in protecting her, he had also protected the future, future where two species could coexist, learn from one another, and grow stronger together. As he stepped outside onto the balcony, looking at the stars above Vega 9, Ethan reflected on the journey. He had arrived as a human security officer, ready to perform routine duties. But through courage, instinct, and heart, he had become more than he ever imagined. He had become a protector, a symbol of honor, and a member of a family that spanned worlds. And somewhere deep within, he knew that this was only the beginning. Leary would grow. The Vaerin and humans would continue to learn from one another, and he would remain at the center not for glory, but because he had chosen to be there. To protect, to guide, to bridge worlds, Ethan took a deep breath, smiling. He had been offered more than recognition, more than reward. He had been offered trust, loyalty, and a place where his courage mattered. And he realized, with a quiet sense of fulfillment, that this was the greatest honor of all. The sun set fully now, leaving a sky full of stars. Leary sat on his lap, looking up at the constellations with awe. Ethan wrapped his arms around her gently. "Protect her?" she asked softly. "Always," he replied, his voice steady, full of promise. In that moment, human and Vaeron, protector and child, two worlds connected by courage and honor, watched the stars together. Knowing that they had faced danger, embraced trust, and created something extraordinary. And for Ethan, that was more than enough.